In the first lecture I gave you on the Middle Ages, I said that Middle Age European culture was a mix of Germanic traditions, ancient Roman traditions, and the Christian church traditions. Today we'll be discussing the rise and fall of church power in Middle Age Europe. Ancient popes did have some just raw political power. They controlled the papal states, so they controlled the immediate territory surrounding the Vatican, but they wielded power that was much greater than just someone who ruled a small little bit of land. For instance, this gentleman here, Pope Gregory the Seventh, successfully outmaneuvered and eventually ousted a German emperor, because the German emperor was appointing Christian officials in his empire that Pope Gregory the Seventh didn't approve of. Pope Gregory the Seventh wanted that power to be with the popes. The German emperor sort of fought back, and Pope Gregory the Second, they had a power struggle. Pope Gregory the Seventh won. How did he do that? He didn't have an army. He didn't have, certainly nothing like the army that the emperor had at his disposal. So Pope Gregory the Seventh couldn't have won in a traditional war with the guy. But what he did have was the ability to excommunicate or expel a person from the church and its sacraments, which in the opinions of people at that time, at that place, would have sent them to a bad place in the afterlife. And Pope Gregory the Seventh wielded that power. He excommunicated the emperor in question, and that got him and all of his followers very frightened. So they bowed to his will. He was able to again outmaneuver this guy and get what he wanted. Nor was he the only pope to do this kind of thing. Pope Gregory the Seventh didn't have a high opinion of kings. He thought that they derived their power from being the descendants of barbarian jerks. The specific quote that I've got from him are that he said that kings derive their origin from men ignorant of God, who raised themselves above their fellows by pride, plunder, treachery, murder at the instigation of the devil. These are kings he's talking about. And he did that, and no one could stop him, no one could raise a finger against him. He was the most powerful man in Europe, all without a physical army. Pope Innocent III, later pope, did similar things. The King of France wanted to divorce his wife, and Pope Innocent III told him, no, you're not going to do that. And he won. The Pope won. The French king was not able to divorce his wife because the Pope told him he couldn't. And the Pope could have kicked him out of heaven, and the Pope could have kicked all French people out of heaven. Popes wielded that threat. Popes would tell kings, hey, listen, I'll kick you out, I'll kick your people out. And that would, cause all sorts of unhappiness in the country that a king would rule. So, again, Pope Innocent III, he bossed the King of England around, he bossed the King of France around. These are, the most powerful men of the day in terms of armies, but Pope Innocent III was able to boss them around. Incidentally, he's also the guy that called for the Fourth Crusade that went awry and ended up attacking Constantinople instead, which he wasn't too happy about. He excommunicated the guys who did that as well, but they didn't listen to him anyway. The power of the church begins to fade a little bit after the Black Death. You could, make the argument that people had less faith in the church after the Black Death, but also what had a lot to do with it is what's called the Great Schism. This was a period of time when, due to a lot of politics and maneuvering that we won't necessarily have to get into too much here, but basically there end up being two popes. The Pope picks a fight with the King of France again, but now this is the 1300s. This is hundreds of years after Pope Innocent III. So the Pope picks a fight with the French king again. The French king says no, and they have a little bit of an argument. And what ends up happening is the French king has the argument with dies, and then the French king appoints a new pope, right? He's like, no, the new pope is going to live in France. He's going to live in Avignon. And Rome says no, and they have their own pope. So basically, for a period of time, there are two popes, one in Italy and one in France. And this is a map here of generally the people who liked the French pope and the people who liked the Italian pope. This is very damaging to the church's reputation in a time, again, after the Black Death, when people were sort of, when the church, we'll just say, has less influence than it used to. Now you have two popes arguing with one another. They excommunicate each other, right? They're calling each other, all sorts of terrible names. That's very damaging to the reputation of the church. And in a time when the Pope needed a lot of people to be very supportive of them if they're going to be bossing kings around, it was not very good to have, again, these two popes arguing with one another. The split gets healed and the Pope goes back to Italy, and it sort of all gets fixed. But the damage is done, right? From then on, popes never really have that Gregory the Seventh, Innocent the Third type power where they can wag their fingers at kings and the kings, have to do what they say. After this time, that level of popish power doesn't really exist anymore.